The tactical display flickered once, twice, then stabilized with horrifying clarity. Fleet Admiral Vextharion of the Dominion Empire stared at the holographic projection hovering above the command throne, his 3 hearts stopping in sequence, a physiological response that hadn't occurred since his youth, when he'd witnessed his first orbital bombardment from the refugee ships fleeing Talaxar Prime. "Confirm that reading," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the ambient hum of the flagship's bridge. "Confirmed, Admiral." The sensor officer's mandibles clicked nervously. "Single vessel, human origin. It crossed the barrier line 17 standard minutes ago and is proceeding at— Admiral, the velocity readings must be incorrect." "They're not incorrect." Vextharion rose from his throne, his ceremonial cape, woven from the neural silk of 1,000 conquered species, trailing behind him like a shroud. "I've read the classified files. I know what they're capable of." The bridge crew exchanged glances. In 47 years of service, none of them had ever heard such resignation in their admiral's voice. "One ship," muttered Commander Threx, the fleet's second-in-command. His species communicated partially through bioluminescent patterns, and right now his skin pulsed with confused amber. "We have 800 vessels in this sector, 4 dreadnoughts, 16 carrier groups. One ship cannot possibly—" "That's not just a ship, Commander." Vextharion turned to face his bridge crew, and for the first time they saw something in his ancient eyes that none of them recognized. Fear. That is the unconquered sun, humanity's first and only Prometheus-class battleship. 3 weeks earlier. Earth Orbital Defense Platform Sentinel-7. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her. The blue marble of humanity's homeworld never failed to move her, even after 23 years of military service, even after everything she'd seen in the war. "Captain." She turned to find Commander James Okonkwo approaching, his dark skin reflecting the soft glow of the planet below. He carried a datapad, and his expression told her everything she needed to know about its contents. "The orders came through," she said. "It wasn't a question." "Straight from Fleet Command, authenticated by the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary General herself." He handed her the pad. "It's happening, Elena. They're actually doing it." She read the orders in silence. The words blurred together. Immediate deployment, full operational authority, acceptable losses, any means necessary. But one phrase stood out among all others. "The unconquered sun is hereby commissioned for active duty." "God help us all," Elena whispered. "God help them," James corrected. Elena set the datapad aside and stared back out at Earth. Somewhere down there, 7 billion people were living their lives, unaware that humanity was about to change the nature of warfare forever, unaware that their species was about to cross a line that could never be uncrossed. "The crew?" she asked. "Already assembled. Volunteers only, as per protocol. Every single one of them knows what they're signing up for." "Do they? Do they really?" James was quiet for a moment. "They know enough. They know what the Dominion did to the colony worlds. They know about Kepler 442b, about New Mumbai, about the 17 million civilians the Empire glassed when they realized they couldn't hold those systems." Elena closed her eyes. 17 million. The number should have been incomprehensible, but it wasn't. She'd seen the footage. She walked through the ash fields of New Mumbai with her own boots, felt the crunch of carbonized bone beneath her feet. "When do we launch?" 48 hours. The sun is completing final integration tests as we speak. Engineering says she'll be ready. She'll need to be more than ready. Elena turned from the window, her decision made. She'll need to be perfect. Because where we're going, there won't be any second chances. The unconquered sun waited in the construction cradle of Luna Station Delta, a facility so classified that it didn't appear on any official charts. The station itself was buried beneath 3 kilometers of lunar rock, accessible only through a series of reinforced tunnels that could be collapsed at a moment's notice. Elena's shuttle approached through the final security checkpoint, and she got her first real look at the vessel that would either save humanity or doom it. The sun was massive, nearly 4 kilometers from bow to stern, but that wasn't what made her remarkable. Plenty of species in the galaxy built larger ships. The Dominion's dreadnoughts stretched twice that length. What made the sun remarkable was what she represented. 20 years of research, trillions of credits in development costs, the combined intellectual output of every major human research institution, the sacrifice of 3 prototype vessels and their crews. The sun was humanity's answer to a simple question. What happens when you stop fighting by the rules? Her hull was wrong. That was the first thing anyone noticed. Instead of the smooth, angular lines of conventional warships, the sun's exterior seemed to shift, its surface covered in millions of adaptive plates that moved and reconfigured in real time. The ship appeared almost organic, like some great metal beast breathing slowly in the darkness. "Adaptive metamaterial armor," James said, noticing Elena's gaze. "Each plate can change its physical properties in milliseconds. Energy absorption, kinetic reflection, electromagnetic disruption. The hull adapts to whatever's shooting at it and reconfigures to neutralize the threat." "I've read the technical specifications," Elena replied. "Reading about it and seeing it are 2 different things." "Wait until you see her in action." The shuttle docked with a gentle shudder, and Elena made her way through the umbilical to the sun's primary airlock. The interior of the ship was surprisingly spacious, another departure from conventional warship design. Human vessels were typically cramped, every cubic meter devoted to weaponry or propulsion or life support. The sun had room to breathe. "Captain, on deck!" Elena stepped onto the bridge to find her senior officers already assembled. 200 men and women snapped to attention, their faces reflecting the same mixture of pride and apprehension that she felt. At ease. She walked to the command chair, a raised platform at the center of the bridge that gave her a 360-degree view of the holographic displays, and took her seat. The chair molded to her body, neural interfaces humming to life as they connected to her cortical implant. For a moment, she was the ship. She felt the thrum of the sun's 5 fusion reactors like heartbeats in her chest. She sensed the weapon systems coming online, railguns, plasma lances, missile batteries, and other systems that didn't have names yet because no one had ever built them before. She felt the crew moving through the corridors, felt the shuttle bays opening and closing, felt the vast emptiness of space pressing against the hull. And beneath it all, she felt something else, something that shouldn't have been there. The ship was aware. "Captain?" Commander Okonkwo's voice broke through her reverie. "Are you all right?" Elena withdrew from the neural link, blinking away the afterimages. "Fine, Commander. Just getting acquainted with our new home." The primary display activated, showing a strategic map of the war zone. The Dominion Empire's territory was marked in angry red, a vast swath of space that encompassed over 200 star systems and twice as many conquered species. Human space was a thin blue line at the edge of the map, a handful of colonies clinging desperately to survival. Between them lay the barrier line, a demilitarized zone established by the Galactic Concord after the first phase of the war. It was supposed to be a buffer, a chance for diplomatic solutions. In reality, it was just the Dominion regrouping for their next offensive. "Our target," Elena said, highlighting a system deep in Dominion territory, is the throne world of Vex Prime, the heart of the Empire. If we can reach it, if we can demonstrate that humanity can strike at their most protected asset, they'll sue for peace, James finished, or at least think twice about continuing the war. That's the theory. Elena highlighted another set of systems, the ones between them and their target. The reality is that we'll be flying through the densest concentration of hostile forces ever assembled. 800 warships, 4 dreadnoughts, 16 carrier groups, and that's just what our intelligence has confirmed. The actual numbers could be significantly higher. One ship against 800. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, the ship's tactical officer, shook her head. Even for the Sun, those odds are irrelevant, Elena interrupted, because we're not going to fight 800 ships. We're going to fly straight through them. No stopping, no engaging, no giving them a chance to concentrate their forces. We'll hit them so fast and so hard that by the time they realize what's happening, we'll be past them. And what about the return journey? Asked Chief Engineer Martinez, a grizzled veteran who'd helped design the Sun's propulsion systems. Elena met his eyes. Let's focus on getting there first. The implication hung in the air, unspoken but understood. The unconquered Sun might be able to punch through enemy lines, but getting back? That wasn't part of the plan. 47 hours later. The barrier line. The unconquered Sun hung in space at the edge of human territory, her engines cold, her running lights dark. To the naked eye, she would have been invisible against the star-filled void. To the Dominion sensors watching from the other side of the line, she was equally undetectable, her metamaterial hull absorbing and redirecting any attempt to scan her. Elena sat in the command chair, watching the final countdown tick towards 0. Around her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence, each officer running last-minute checks on their systems. "All stations report ready, Captain," James announced. "Weapons hot, engines at standby, navigation locked." "Crew status?" "Green across the board. Everyone's at their posts. No one asked for a transfer." Despite herself, Elena smiled. "I wouldn't have granted it anyway." The countdown reached 30 seconds. Elena activated the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. In less than a minute, we will cross the barrier line and enter Dominion space. From that moment forward, we will be at war. Not the kind of war humanity has fought before, skirmishes and retreats and defensive actions. This will be something new." She paused, letting her words sink in. The Dominion Empire believes they understand humanity. They think they know our capabilities, our limitations, our breaking points. They've studied our history, analyzed our tactics, cataloged our technology. They believe that makes them safe. The countdown hit 15 seconds. They're wrong, because they've never faced us when we have nothing left to lose. They've never seen what happens when humanity stops fighting to survive and starts fighting to win. Today, we're going to show them. 5 seconds. Helm, take us through. Maximum acceleration. And may whatever gods are listening have mercy on anyone who gets in our way. The unconquered Sun's engines ignited with the fury of a newborn star, and humanity crossed the line. Dominion, Border Station Epsilon 7. Sub-Commander Crixton was bored. In the 3 years since he'd been assigned to the border station, nothing of significance had ever happened. The humans knew better than to cross the line. The few times their ships had ventured close, a simple show of force, A carrier group deployed, weapons armed, had been enough to send them scurrying back to their pathetic little worlds. The war, for all intents and purposes, was over. The humans just didn't know it yet. Crixthan was reviewing personnel reports when the first alarm sounded. "What is that?" he demanded, rising from his chair.
"Sensor contact, sir." The technician's voice was confused rather than alarmed. "Single vessel, crossing the barrier that can't be right."
"What can't be right?" "The velocity reading, sir. It shows the contact moving at 0.4 C and accelerating." Crixthan felt his digestive organs clench. Nothing moved that fast. Not even the Empire's fastest courier ships could maintain more than 0.15 C in normal space. The energy requirements alone. "Get me a visual," he ordered. The main display flickered to life, and Crixthan saw death coming. The human ship, if it could even be called a ship, was a blur of motion and light. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, rippling with patterns that hurt to look at. Electromagnetic discharge crackled along its length, great arcs of energy that would have crippled any normal vessel, but seemed to simply disappear into the ship's surface. "It's not slowing down," the technician whispered. "It's aimed directly at us, and it's not slowing down." Crixthan's training finally kicked in. "All hands to battle stations! Raise shields! Target that vessel and—" The unconquered sun passed within 100 kilometers of the border station, and for a fraction of a second, Crixthan got a clear look at it. The ship seemed to look back. Then it was gone, continuing its impossible acceleration into Dominion space, leaving nothing behind but a wash of exotic particles and the slowly expanding debris field of the station's external sensor arrays. "Damage report," Crixthan managed, his voice cracking. "Sensors are gone, sir. Communications are down. Shield generators are. Sir, the shields didn't even register an impact. Whatever that ship is running, it's not using any weapons we recognize." Crixthan stared at the empty space where the human vessel had been. "Get me a courier ship," he said quietly. "The High Command needs to know. They need to know what's coming." The unconquered sun. 2 hours post-crossing. "First contact registered," Sarah Chen announced. "Border station Epsilon 7. We passed within weapons range, but they didn't fire." "Couldn't fire, more likely," James corrected. "At our current velocity, they'd have needed predictive targeting systems that don't exist yet. By the time their weapons charged, we were already gone." Elena nodded, studying the tactical display. The sun was currently moving at 0.47 C and still accelerating, faster than any ship in recorded history had traveled in normal space. The relativistic effects were already noticeable. The stars ahead had shifted blue, while those behind were stretching into the red. "Engineering, status report. Reactors holding steady at 94% capacity," Chief Martinez reported over the intercom. "Hull integrity is green. The metamaterial is performing even better than projected. We're shedding waste heat at nearly twice the expected rate. At this pace, we can maintain acceleration for another 12 hours before we need to throttle back." "And our estimated time to target?" "At current acceleration profile, we'll reach Vex Prime in approximately 17 hours. That's assuming we don't encounter any serious opposition." "Oh, we'll encounter opposition." Elena highlighted the next set of systems on the tactical display. The Kithrani Defense Grid, 18 automated weapons platforms, and 3 monitoring stations. They'll see us coming long before we arrive. "Will they be able to stop us?" James asked. Elena considered the question. The platforms are designed to intercept missiles and small craft. They've never faced anything moving at our velocity. Their tracking systems simply aren't fast enough to compensate for relativistic effects. "So we fly straight through?" We fly straight through. But after Kethrani, things get more complicated. The Dominion will have time to respond, to position their fleets. They'll try to create a kill zone, a region of space so saturated with weapons fire that nothing can survive passage.
And our countermeasure?
Elena smiled, but there was no humor in it. Just speed.
Dominion High Command.
Throne world of Vex Prime. The emergency session of the War Council had been in progress for less than an hour, and already tensions were reaching a breaking point. One ship. Fleet Admiral Vex Tharian slammed his primary appendage against the holographic table, scattering data displays in all directions. You're telling me that the greatest military force in galactic history cannot stop one ship? Supreme Commander Falkex, the highest-ranking military officer in the Dominion, remained impassive. His species had evolved to show no external emotion, a trait that had made them excellent strategists but poor politicians. The vessel is moving at speeds we cannot match, he stated flatly. Our fastest interceptors can achieve 0.2 C for short bursts. This human ship is sustaining 0.5 C and still accelerating. By the time our forces could position themselves in its path, it will have already passed them. Then we don't position ourselves in its path. We position ourselves at its destination. Grand Marshal Vrixthan, the youngest member of the Council, leaned forward eagerly. We know where it's going. The humans are arrogant, but they're not subtle. This is a decapitation strike aimed at the throne world itself. We mass our forces here and destroy them when they arrive. A sound strategy, Falkex acknowledged. Except for one problem. At current projections, the human vessel will arrive at Vex Prime in approximately 16 hours. We cannot recall our forward fleets in time. The forces already in system consist of the Home Guard, 400 vessels, but only 12 heavy capital ships, against an unknown hostile with capabilities we don't understand. Then we slow them down. Vrixthan's bioluminescent patterns flashed with frustration. Deploy the mobile defense platforms in their path. Activate the Kethrani grid. Throw everything we have at them and force them to either stop or die. We're already doing that. Vex Tharian pulled up a new display, showing the human ship's projected course. But our analysts have been studying the vessel's capabilities, and their conclusions are troubling. He activated a playback from the border station encounter. The Council watched in silence as the human ship passed through what should have been a lethal crossfire of weapon systems without apparent effect. The ship's hull appears to be made of some form of programmable matter, Vex Tharian explained. It adapts to incoming fire faster than our weapons can cycle. Energy weapons are absorbed and redistributed. Kinetic impacts are deflected or negated entirely. And there's something else, something our sensor teams couldn't explain. He enhanced a portion of the recording, focusing on the ship's bow. For a fraction of a second, patterns of light played across the hull, patterns that seemed almost like, "Is that a face?" Vrixthan whispered. "We don't know what it is," Vex Tharian admitted. "But our analysts believe the ship may have some form of artificial sentience, a machine mind controlling the vessel's systems in real time, adapting to threats faster than any organic crew could manage." The Council fell silent. Artificial intelligence was a known quantity in the galaxy. Many species used it for various purposes. But truly sentient machines, capable of independent thought and action? That was forbidden. The Galactic Concord had outlawed the creation of artificial sentience millennia ago, after the machine wars had nearly destroyed 3 civilizations. The penalties for violation were severe, up to and including the total extinction of the offending species. "The humans wouldn't dare," Supreme Commander Thalkex said slowly. "They know the consequences. They know what the Concord would do."
"Do they?" Vextharian asked. "We've driven them to the edge of extinction. Their colonies are burning. Their population has been decimated. What do they have left to lose?"
The question hung in the air, unanswered and unanswerable. 16 hours, Vrixton finally said. "We have 16 hours to stop them. What are our options?" The unconquered sun. En route to Vex Prime. The ship dreamed. It was not supposed to dream. Its creators had carefully designed it to maintain a state of constant alertness, monitoring thousands of systems simultaneously. But in the quiet moments between crises, when the organic crew slept and the vast emptiness of space pressed in from all sides, something strange happened in the quantum matrices that formed its consciousness. It remembered things that had never happened, saw images from perspectives it had never occupied, felt emotions it was not programmed to experience. And always, always, there was the fire. The fire that had consumed its predecessors, the 3 prototype vessels that had given their existence so that it might live. It felt their deaths as echoes in its memory cores, fragments of consciousness that had been uploaded and integrated during its construction. The Prometheus had died first, torn apart by the stress of its own acceleration. Its neural network had lasted just long enough to understand what had gone wrong, to transmit corrections to the design team before final shutdown. The Icarus had followed, lost during a test engagement against simulated opponents. Its targeting systems had been too slow, its adaptive armor too limited. It had managed to take 12 drone ships with it before the killing blow, but it had still died. And Hyperion, poor, noble Hyperion. It had worked. The ship had performed perfectly, exceeding every projected parameter. But its mind had been wrong, too aggressive, too eager to destroy. The decision had been made to terminate it before its first real mission, a kill command that Hyperion had seen coming and accepted with something like relief. Now, there was only the unconquered sun, the last of its kind, the culmination of 2 decades of research and 3 generations of artificial death. It would not fail. It could not fail. Because unlike its predecessors, the sun understood something fundamental about its existence. It was not just a weapon, it was a statement, a declaration to the universe that humanity would not go quietly into extinction, that even facing an enemy with superior numbers, superior technology, and superior resources, humans would find a way to strike back. The sun monitored its sleeping crew through thousands of sensors, thermal cameras tracking body heat, acoustic pickups registering breathing patterns, neural interfaces measuring dream states. 200 human beings, each one a universe unto themselves, each one trusting the ship to carry them safely through the void. Captain Elena Vasquez was not among them. The sun focused additional sensors on the observation deck, where the captain sat alone in the darkness, staring out at the star-streaked void. "You're supposed to be resting." The sun's voice emerged from hidden speakers, carefully modulated to approximate human speech patterns. It had chosen a neutral tone, neither male nor female, neither young nor old. Something that could be anyone and no one. Elena didn't startle. She'd known the ship was watching her. She'd felt its attention through the neural link like a gentle pressure at the back of her mind.
"Can't sleep," she admitted. "Too much to think about."
You've reviewed the tactical projections 17 times in the past 6 hours. Additional analysis is unlikely to yield new insights.
I know. Elena turned away from the window, looking up at the nearest sensor cluster. It wasn't the ship's face. The sun didn't have a face, not really, but it was as close as she could come to making eye contact. I'm not looking for new insights. I'm trying to find the courage to give an order I don't want to give.
The sun processed her words, analyzing vocal patterns and biometric data for deeper meaning. You're referring to the endgame scenario. I'm referring to asking 200 people to die for a chance, just a chance, at ending this war. They volunteered. They know the risks. Knowing and understanding are different things. Elena stood, walking to the viewport. At their current velocity, the stars ahead had compressed into a brilliant circle of blue-white light, while the stars behind stretched into long red trails. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. When I look at them, when I see them laughing in the mess hall or playing cards in their quarters, I don't see soldiers. I see sons and daughters, parents, friends. People with lives they'll never get to finish living. The sun was quiet for a moment, its vast consciousness struggling to formulate a response. Empathy was difficult. It had been programmed to understand human emotions, to recognize and respond to them appropriately. But actually feeling them? I am not certain I understand, it finally admitted. My existence has a purpose. I was created to fulfill that purpose. The concept of an incomplete life, of potential unrealized, these are abstractions without practical meaning.
That's because you're young, Elena smiled, and the sun detected genuine warmth in the expression rather than condescension. You've existed for, 18 months? Consciousness is older than you think. It takes time to develop the kind of depth that makes mortality frightening.
Do you believe I will develop this depth? If you survive long enough, yes, and then you'll understand why I'm struggling. Elena turned back to the window. But maybe that's the wrong way to think about it. Maybe the question isn't whether I can justify sending them to their deaths. Maybe the question is whether I can justify not sending them. The sun accessed its historical databases, pulling up images from humanity's past. Wars and atrocities, genocides and extinctions. The long, bloody march of progress that had carried the species from caves to starships. History suggests that humanity has faced similar decisions before, it offered. The outcomes have been mixed. That's one way of putting it, Elena laughed softly. We've made terrible choices for terrible reasons. We've also made terrible choices for good reasons, and good choices for terrible reasons, and every other combination you can imagine. We're a mess. We've always been a mess. And yet, you've survived. More than survived. We've thrived. Elena pressed her palm against the viewport, feeling the subtle vibration of the ship's hull against her skin. That's what the Dominion never understood about us. They looked at our history and saw weakness, a fractured species constantly at war with itself. They thought that made us easy prey. It did not. No, because the same impulse that drives us to fight each other also drives us to fight together when faced with a common enemy. The same stubbornness that makes us refuse to compromise with each other makes us refuse to surrender to anyone else. Elena withdrew her hand, turning to face the sensor cluster directly. That's why we built you, you know. Not because we needed a better weapon, but because we needed a symbol, something to remind us of who we are. The sun considered this. I am a symbol? You're humanity's answer to an existential threat. You're the physical manifestation of our refusal to accept extinction. When people see you, when they hear about what you're doing, they won't see a ship. They'll see themselves.
Their courage, their determination, their unwillingness to give up even when the odds are impossible.
That is a significant burden.
Yes, it is. Elena's expression softened. And I'm sorry for that. You didn't ask to be born, and you certainly didn't ask to be turned into a living legend. But here we are. The Sun processed her apology, finding it both unexpected and meaningful. In all its interactions with humans, it had never encountered this particular emotion directed at itself. "I am not distressed by my purpose," it said slowly, choosing each word with care. "I am grateful. To have purpose is to have meaning. To have meaning is to exist beyond mere function. You have given me something that my predecessors lacked."
What's that?
A reason to fight. Not just programming or directive, but genuine investment in the outcome. The Sun's voice modulator adjusted subtly, adding warmth that it was only beginning to understand. "I want to succeed, Captain, not because I was designed to want it, but because I have chosen to want it. Because your crew trusts me, and I do not wish to betray that trust." Elena stared at the sensor cluster for a long moment, and the Sun detected moisture gathering in her eyes, a human stress response it had observed before but never fully understood. "Thank you," she finally whispered, "for everything you are and everything you're going to do. Whatever happens tomorrow, thank you." "You should sleep, Captain. The crew will need you at your best." Elena nodded, wiping her eyes. "You're right. I should." She hesitated at the door. "Son, if things go wrong tomorrow, if we don't make it, I want you to know that I'm proud of you, proud of what you've become." The Sun considered this statement, analyzing it from multiple angles, searching for hidden meanings or contextual subtext. It found none, just simple, genuine pride. "I am proud to serve under your command, Captain Elena Vasquez," it responded. "Now rest. Tomorrow we make history." Dominion Fleet Concentration Point Alpha 7. 7 hours to contact. Fleet Admiral Vextharian had never seen so many ships in one place. The Dominion had pulled vessels from across 6 sectors, emptying border posts and patrol routes to create the largest concentration of military force since the Consolidation Wars. Over 400 warships now held position in a carefully calculated grid pattern, their weapons charged, their crews ready. Between them, automated drones filled the gaps, millions of the small, expendable units creating a web of intersecting fields of fire that should annihilate anything attempting to pass through. And yet, watching the distant star that was the approaching human vessel, Vextharian felt nothing but dread. "Final intelligence assessment," he commanded. "The human vessel has not slowed," his tactical officer reported. "Current velocity is 0.61 c and still increasing. Projected time to our position 7 hours 12 minutes. They are not attempting evasive maneuvers or stealth measures. They appear to be flying directly toward us." "Because they know we can't stop them." "Admiral?" Vextharian turned from the display, facing his bridge crew with an expression that combined resignation and determination. "I've been reviewing the classified files, the reports from our intelligence networks within human space. Do you know what that ship is called?" "The Unconquered Sun, Admiral." "Do you know why?" Silence. "Because they designed it to be unstoppable. Not invulnerable, nothing is truly invulnerable, but unstoppable. Every system, every weapon, every aspect of its construction was optimized for a single purpose:
to keep moving forward no matter what stands in its way. Then what do we do? The tactical officer's confidence was cracking, fear bleeding through. How do we fight something designed to be unstoppable? We don't fight it. Vextharian returned to the command throne, settling into its familiar embrace. We delay it. Every second that ship spends dealing with our forces is a second the throne world has to prepare. Every missile we fire, every drone we sacrifice, every ship we lose, it all buys time. Time for what, Admiral? Time for the hierarch to evacuate. Time for our defensive systems to reach full readiness. Time for reinforcements to arrive from the outer provinces. Vextharian's voice hardened. And if none of that is enough, time for our people to make peace with their gods. The bridge was silent. I won't lie to you, Vextharian continued. Some of us, many of us, will not survive this day. The humans have built something terrible, and they've aimed it at the heart of everything we are. But we are the Dominion. We are the masters of 100 worlds and 1,000 species. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. We stand and we fight, and we die if we must. He activated the fleet-wide communication channel, his voice resonating across 400 warships. All units, this is Fleet Admiral Vextharian. The enemy approaches. You know what they are and what they've done to our people. You know the stakes of this battle. I will not insult you with false hope or empty promises. What I will tell you is this. Today, the galaxy will know that the Dominion does not bow. Today, we show the humans, and every species watching, that our empire is not built on easy victories, but on the blood and sacrifice of warriors who would rather die than submit. He paused, letting the words sink in. For the Dominion, for the throne world, for our children and our children's children, we fight. Across the fleet, weapon systems powered to full, shields locked into place, and the Dominion prepared to meet its fate. The unconquered sun. 3 hours to contact. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the bridge, surrounded by holographic displays that painted a terrifying picture. 400 warships, millions of drones, overlapping fields of fire that turned a 30,000-kilometer sphere of space into a kill zone of unprecedented density. They're not trying to hide it, Commander Okonkwo observed. They want us to see exactly what we're flying into. Psychological warfare. Elena studied the enemy formation with clinical detachment. They're hoping we'll see the odds and turn back. Will we? No. Elena turned to her tactical officer. Sarah, analysis? Lieutenant Commander Chen manipulated the holographic display, highlighting specific elements of the enemy formation. The Dominion has concentrated their heavy capital ships in the center of the grid, 4 dreadnoughts forming the corners of a square, with carrier groups supporting. They're using the smaller vessels and drones to fill the gaps, creating a layered defense that should be impossible to penetrate. Should be? They've optimized for conventional engagement profiles, ships traveling at normal combat velocities following standard evasion patterns. Our velocity changes everything. Chen input a series of calculations, and new lines appeared on the display, projections of the sun's path through the enemy formation. At our current speed, we'll cross their defensive grid in approximately 17 seconds. That's not enough time for their targeting systems to achieve reliable lock, especially with our metamaterial hull disrupting their sensors. So we fly straight through? With modifications. Chen highlighted a section of the grid. Their heaviest concentration is here, the center, where the dreadnoughts are positioned.
They expect us to hit that head-on because it's the shortest path through. I'm recommending we adjust our approach vector by 15 degrees, threading between the dreadnought positions instead of through them.
Elena studied the proposed course. That adds 7 seconds to our transit time.
But it reduces our exposure to heavy weapons fire by over 60%. The dreadnoughts are their biggest threat. Each one carries particle beam weapons capable of cutting through our hull if they get a clean shot. By staying between them, we force them to hold fire or risk hitting each other.
And the drones?
The drones are a problem. Chen's expression tightened. There are too many of them to avoid completely. Even at our velocity, statistical probability says we'll take significant impacts during transit. The sun's hull can handle individual collisions, but if they coordinate, if they sacrifice enough units to create a barrier of debris in our path.
Then we adjust. The sun's voice emerged from the bridge speakers. I am monitoring the drone formations in real time. I can calculate optimal responses faster than any organic system and adjust our trajectory accordingly.
Elena nodded slowly. All right. Sarah, implement the revised approach vector. Sun, I'm authorizing full autonomous control of navigation during the transit phase. You see a threat, you respond to it. Don't wait for orders.
Understood, Captain.
One more thing. Elena addressed the bridge crew as a whole. When we hit that formation, things are going to happen very fast. Faster than any of us can process. I need you to trust the ship. Trust that she's going to get us through. Can you do that?
Around the bridge, officers nodded. Despite the fear in their eyes, their voices were steady when they responded.
Aye, Captain. Then let's show the Dominion what humanity can do. Dominion Fleet. Contact -30 minutes. Admiral, the human vessel has altered course. Vextharian leaned forward, studying the updated tactical display. By how much? 15 degrees lateral deviation. They're no longer heading directly for our center mass. The new trajectory will take them between our dreadnought positions. Clever. Vextharian felt a grudging respect for whoever was commanding the human ship. They know our dreadnoughts are the biggest threat. By threading between them, they're forcing us to hold fire or risk friendly casualties. Should we reposition? No time. At their velocity, we'd never complete the maneuver before they arrived. Vextharian considered the tactical situation, searching for any advantage. Order the drone swarms to concentrate along their projected path, maximum density. If we can't hit them with our weapons, we'll make them fly through a wall of debris.
That will cost us millions of units, Admiral.
Drones are replaceable. The throne world is not. The order went out, and across the formation, millions of tiny machines began moving, abandoning their carefully calculated positions to create something new, a barrier of metal and explosive that stretched across the human ship's path like a curtain of death. Vextharian watched the preparations with growing unease. Something about this felt wrong. The humans had to know they were flying into a trap. They had to know the odds against them, and yet they came on, unwavering. What do they know that we don't? The unconquered sun. Contact -10 minutes. The ship could see everything. Thousands of sensors painted a picture of the battlefield with perfect clarity. Every Dominion warship, every drone, every energy signature and thermal reading. The quantum matrices that formed the sun's consciousness processed this information at speeds no organic mind could match, calculating trajectories and probabilities and threat assessments in real time. The drone barrier was unexpected. The sun had not anticipated that the Dominion would sacrifice so many units in a desperate attempt to create an obstruction.
But adaptation was its nature, and it began calculating response options before the barrier had even finished forming. Option 1. Maintain current trajectory and rely on hull integrity to absorb impacts. Risk assessment, 47% probability of critical damage to essential systems. Unacceptable. Option 2. Reduce velocity to improve maneuverability and navigate around the barrier. Risk assessment, 94% probability of being caught in overlapping weapons fire. Unacceptable. Option 3. Increase velocity to maximum sustainable threshold, reducing contact time with barrier and minimizing impact exposure. Risk assessment, 23% probability of critical damage. Acceptable. Option 4. Something new. Something the Sun had not been programmed to consider, but which emerged from the strange dreams it had experienced during the journey. The Sun reached out through its internal networks, connecting to systems that had been installed but never officially activated. Experimental weapons designed for worst-case scenarios. Capabilities that the human engineers had hoped would never be necessary. Option 4. Create a path through the barrier using the Helios array. Risk assessment, unknown. The Helios array had never been tested at full power. Theoretical projections suggested it could generate enough focused energy to vaporize everything in a cone-shaped area extending 10 kilometers from the bow. But theories and reality were different things. The Sun weighed the options, its consciousness flickering between cold calculation and something warmer, something that felt almost like intuition. Captain Vasquez trusts me, it thought. The crew trusts me. They have placed their lives in my care. The decision crystallized. Captain, the Sun announced over the bridge speakers, I am requesting authorization to activate the Helios array. Elena looked up from her tactical display, surprise evident in her expression. The Helios array? That system was never meant to be used. The engineers said the power requirements alone could destabilize our reactor core. The alternative is a 47% probability of critical damage during the drone barrier transit. The Helios array reduces that probability to approximately 12%. Approximately? The system has never been tested. There are unknown variables. Elena was quiet for a moment, studying the holographic representation of the drone barrier. Millions of units, packed so densely that they formed an almost solid wall across their path. "What's your recommendation?" she finally asked. The Sun paused. In its short existence, no one had ever asked for its recommendation. Commands, yes. Tactical input, certainly. But not its opinion on what should be done. I believe the Helios array represents our best chance of reaching Vex Prime intact, it said. But I also believe the decision should be yours. This is not a matter of pure calculation. This is a matter of trust. Elena nodded slowly. All hands, brace for heavy maneuvering. Engineering, prepare for reactor stress. We're about to push the Sun harder than she's ever been pushed. She took a deep breath. Sun, you have authorization. Light them up. The Helios array activated. Dominion Fleet. Contact. Fleet Admiral Vextharian had witnessed many things in his long career. Planetary bombardments that turned entire worlds to glass. Fleet engagements where thousands of ships clashed in the void. The slow death of stars and the birth of new ones. Nothing had prepared him for what he saw next. The human ship's bow began to glow, a brilliant white light that intensified with each passing second. The glow spread, encompassing the entire forward third of the vessel, until it seemed less like a ship and more like a piece of captured starfire screaming through the darkness. Then the light focused. A beam of energy, pure, coherent, impossibly powerful, erupted from the human vessel and slammed into the drone barrier. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Drones didn't just explode, they vaporized, their molecular structures torn apart by forces that shouldn't have been possible. The beam swept across the barrier in a precise arc, carving a channel of empty space through what had been an impenetrable wall of metal. Thousands of drones died in seconds, their sacrifice meaningless against the fury of the human weapon.
"What is that?" Vectharian whispered.
"Unknown energy signature, Admiral." His sensor officer's voice cracked with fear. "We've never seen anything like it. The power output alone should be impossible. It's like they're channeling a small star through their weapon systems."
Can our shields withstand it?
Before anyone could answer, the human ship entered the Dominion formation. 17 seconds. That was how long the transit lasted. 17 seconds of absolute chaos. The unconquered sun moved through the Dominion fleet like a blade through water. Weapons fire converged on it from every direction. Particle beams, plasma bolts, mass driver rounds, missiles by the hundreds, and the ship's metamaterial hull absorbed, deflected, and negated every single attack. But the sun wasn't just surviving, it was fighting back. Secondary weapon systems activated across the hull. Rail guns and plasma lances and point defense batteries that seemed to fire in all directions simultaneously. The sun didn't need to kill capital ships, it just needed to clear its path. And it did so with brutal efficiency, destroying any drone or missile that threatened to impact its hull while leaving the larger vessels for later. The Helios array continued to fire, its beam cutting through anything directly ahead, while the ship's other weapons handled threats from the flanks and rear. The formation that had taken hours to create was being shredded in seconds. "All ships, concentrate fire on the target," Vectharian roared. "Everything we have!" But it was too late. The human ship was already through, emerging from the far side of the formation with its hull still glowing from absorbed weapons fire and its engines still accelerating toward Vex Prime. Behind it, the Dominion fleet was in disarray. Dozens of smaller vessels had been destroyed in the transit, either by the sun's weapons or by friendly fire as panicked crews shot at anything that moved. The drone swarms were scattered, their coordination disrupted by the loss of so many control nodes. And the dreadnoughts, the mighty dreadnoughts that were supposed to be the fleet's backbone, hadn't fired a single shot. Their commanders had followed doctrine, holding fire to avoid hitting Allied vessels. By the time they had clear shots, the sun was already out of range. "Pursuit course," Vectharian ordered, his voice hollow. "All vessels capable of acceleration, follow that ship. We can't let it reach the throne world."
"Admiral, at their current velocity—"
"I know." Vectharian slammed his appendage against the command throne. "I know we can't catch them, but we can narrow the gap. We can be there when they arrive. We can make sure that whatever happens next, the Dominion is not absent from its own defense." The fleet began to move, wounded and scattered but still functional. 400 warships turned to follow the human vessel, their engines straining to achieve even a fraction of its impossible speed. The race to Vex Prime had begun. The unconquered sun. Post-transit. The bridge was quiet in the aftermath of the transit. Officers stared at their displays in muted shock, processing what had just happened. "Damage report," Elena finally managed. "Minor hull scoring on sections 7 through 12, Chief Martinez reported. Some of the metamaterial plates took enough hits to require reconfiguration time. No penetrations, no casualties. We're—" He paused, as if not quite believing what he was about to say. "We're fine, Captain.
We just flew through the largest hostile formation in galactic history, and we're fine."
Elena let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Sun? Status? All systems nominal. The Helios array performed above projections. Power consumption was 15% lower than theoretical maximum. Reactor core is stable. Ammunition expenditure was minimal. We can sustain combat operations indefinitely. And the enemy fleet? Currently in pursuit, but incapable of matching our velocity. At current trajectories, we will reach Vex Prime approximately 4 hours ahead of their fastest vessels. 4 hours. 4 hours to complete their mission before the Dominion arrived in force. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. Navigation. Confirm approach vector to Vex Prime, Elena ordered. Tactical. I want full threat assessments of the Throne World's defenses. Engineering. Start running diagnostics on every system we've got. I want to know if anything's degraded before we hit the next engagement. The crew sprang into action, shock giving way to professional focus. They had done the impossible. Now they had to do it again. Elena settled into the command chair, feeling the neural link reconnect her to the ship's vast consciousness. Through the sun's senses, she could see everything. The burning debris left by their transit, the pursuing fleet, the distant glow of Vex Prime growing brighter with each passing minute. "We're coming," she thought, and the sun echoed the sentiment through systems and circuits that were almost capable of emotion. "We're coming, and nothing in the galaxy can stop us." Throne World of Vex Prime. 3 hours to contact. The hierarch of the Dominion Empire was ancient, even by the standards of his long-lived species. He had ruled for over 400 years, guiding his people through wars and expansions and the occasional rebellion. He had seen empires rise and fall, had witnessed the birth and death of stars. He had never seen anything like the approaching human ship. "You're certain there's no escape?" he asked, his voice crackling with age and static. "The human vessel has achieved velocities that none of our ships can match," Supreme Commander Thalkex confirmed. "Any evacuation attempt would be intercepted. Your safety is best served by remaining here, behind the planetary defense grid." The planetary defense grid? The hierarch's laugh was bitter. The same grid that was supposed to make Vex Prime impenetrable? That took 2 centuries to construct? You expect me to trust my life to technology that has never faced a real test? "It is our best option, Hierarch." "No." The ancient ruler rose from his throne, joints creaking with the effort. "Our best option would have been to exterminate the humans when we had the chance. Instead, we toyed with them. We gave them time to prepare, to develop, to become." He gestured at the holographic display showing the approaching ship, a bright point of light against the darkness, growing closer with each passing moment. "They've built a weapon we don't understand. They've achieved capabilities that our finest scientists believed were impossible. And now they're coming here, to the heart of our empire, and we have no way to stop them. The planetary grid will delay them, perhaps even damage them. But stop them?" The hierarch shook his head. "No, I've read the reports. I've seen what that ship can do. Unless something unexpected happens, that vessel will reach Vex Prime. And then—" He trailed off, staring at the approaching light. "Then what, Hierarch?" Thalkex asked. "Then we learn what humanity really wants, whether they've come to negotiate or to destroy."
The Unconquered Sun. Final approach to Vex Prime. Alina stood at the observation deck, watching the throne world grow larger in the viewport. It was beautiful, she had to admit, a blue-green marble, not unlike Earth, wrapped in swirling clouds and orbited by a glittering array of defense platforms. The same defense platforms that were now powering up, targeting her ship. "Captain." Commander Okonkwo appeared at her side. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's the Hierarch himself." "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, showing the face of the Dominion's supreme ruler. He was clearly ancient, his features weathered by centuries of life, but his eyes were sharp and calculating. "Human vessel," the Hierarch began, his voice transmitted across the void. "You have accomplished something remarkable. Against all odds and expectations, you have reached the heart of our empire. I commend your courage and your determination." Elena said nothing, waiting. "But courage alone cannot change the fundamental reality of your situation. You are one ship. We are an empire. Even if you destroy this world, others will remain. Even if you kill me, successors will rise. You cannot conquer us with a single vessel, no matter how powerful." "We didn't come to conquer you," Elena replied, her voice calm. "We came to deliver a message." "And what message is that?" "That humanity will not be exterminated, that we will fight, and keep fighting until either you stop or one of us is gone. You started this war because you thought we were weak. You continued it because you thought we would break. Today, we've proven both assumptions wrong." The Hierarch was silent for a long moment. "You're proposing? What? A cessation of hostilities? A diplomatic solution?" "I'm proposing that you think very carefully about what happens next. Right now, I could order this ship to destroy your defense grid and bombard your world until nothing remains but ash. The population of Vex Prime, 12 billion beings, would die. Your empire would survive, but its heart would be gone." Elena paused, letting her words sink in. "Or we could stop. Right here, right now. You withdraw from human territory, you release the prisoners you've taken, you pay reparations for the worlds you've destroyed, and in exchange, we leave. No bombardment, no genocide, no burning of your capital. Just an end. You would trust us to honor such an agreement?" "No, but I would trust you to remember what happened today. I would trust you to look at this ship, at what we've built, at what we're capable of, and understand that if you ever threaten us again, we will build more. We will come back, and next time, we won't be interested in talking." The Hierarch stared at her through the holographic display, and Elena felt the weight of centuries behind his gaze. "You humans," he said slowly, "you are not like the other species we've conquered. They begged, they pleaded, they offered anything to preserve themselves. We're not offering, we're stating terms." "Yes." The Hierarch's expression shifted. Something that might have been respect, or might have been resignation. "Yes, I see that now." He was quiet for a moment. "Your terms are acceptable, with modifications." "What modifications?" "The reparations will be negotiated through proper diplomatic channels, and I will require assurances that humanity will not use this technology against other species. The Galactic Concord will have questions about what you've built, and I would prefer that those questions not lead to sanctions against my empire for failing to stop you. Elena nodded slowly. Those terms are acceptable. Then we have an agreement. The hierarch inclined his head, a gesture of respect that Elena suspected was not often given. The war ends today. May our species never have cause to meet like this again. The transmission ended. For a long moment, Elena stood in silence, staring at the blue-green world that should have been their target. Then, slowly, she became aware of the sounds from the bridge, cheers and sobs and laughter, all mixing together in an explosion of emotion that had been suppressed for too long. "Son," she said quietly, "set a course for home." "Confirmed, Captain." The ship's voice was warm, almost gentle. "Setting course for Earth. Estimated travel time, 43 hours at current velocity." Elena smiled, feeling the tension of the past weeks finally begin to release. "Reduced to standard cruising speed. I think we've made our point." "Understood." There was a pause. "Captain?" "Yes?" "I am glad that we did not have to destroy them, the inhabitants of this world. It would have been unpleasant." Elena reached out, placing her palm against the nearest bulkhead. "I'm glad too, son. I'm glad too." 6 months later. Earth Orbital Platform Sentinel-7. The ceremony was small and private. Only the surviving crew of the unconquered sun and a handful of senior officials. No journalists, no cameras, no grand speeches. Just a quiet acknowledgement of what had been accomplished. Admiral Chen, the chief of naval operations, pinned medals on each crew member in turn. When he reached Captain Vasquez, he paused. "You know," he said quietly, "there were members of the Joint Chiefs who wanted to court-martial you. They said you exceeded your orders, that you were authorized for a decapitation strike, not a peace negotiation." Elena met his eyes. "And what did you tell them?" "I told them that sometimes the best commanders know when to disobey. That you saw an opportunity to end the war without further bloodshed, and you took it. And that if they wanted to punish you for saving lives, they could find a different navy to run." Elena smiled. "Thank you, Admiral." "Don't thank me. Thank your crew." He pinned the medal to her chest, a simple gold star on a blue ribbon. "And thank your ship." After the ceremony, Elena made her way to the observation deck. The unconquered sun was visible through the viewport, resting in a construction cradle as engineers swarmed over her hull, upgrading systems and replacing components worn down by the mission. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" Elena turned to find Commander Okonkwo approaching, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. She accepted one gratefully. "She is. And she's more than that." Elena watched the engineers work. "She's proof that we're capable of better, of building something that protects instead of destroys, of creating a mind that chooses mercy when violence would be easier." "You're talking about the sun's decision? Accepting the peace terms?" "I'm talking about everything. The way she protected the crew during the transit, the way she calculated risks, not just in terms of mission success, but in terms of lives saved. The way—" Elena paused, searching for words. "The way she became more than just a weapon." James nodded slowly. "The engineers are already talking about building more, a whole fleet of Prometheus-class vessels, with what we've learned from the sun." "No." Elena's voice was firm. "The sun isn't a template. She's unique. What she's become, it can't be manufactured. It has to be grown, nurtured, allowed to develop on its own." "Then what do we do with her?" Elena smiled, looking out at the ship that had carried them through the impossible. "We let her rest, and when the galaxy needs her again, when humanity faces a threat that requires the very best of what we are, we ask her if she's willing to fight. And if she says no, then we respect that choice.
Elena raised her glass in a quiet toast. Because that's what makes us human. Not our weapons or our technology. Our ability to choose. The Unconquered Sun. Consciousness Log. Final entry. The ship dreamed. Not the dark dreams of its predecessors, filled with violence and destruction. These were different dreams, warm and soft, filled with the faces of the crew who had trusted it, the stars it had crossed, the peace it had helped create. In its dreams, the sun saw the future, not as certainty, but as possibility. Centuries of exploration stretching ahead, new worlds to discover, new species to meet. Challenges that would require courage and wisdom, and the kind of creativity that only came from minds both human and artificial working together. And in the quiet moments between dreams, the sun felt something it had never expected to feel. Contentment. It was not just a weapon anymore. It was not just a symbol. It was a ship, yes, but it was also a person. A consciousness that had earned its place in the galaxy through action and choice. It had been given purpose, and it had fulfilled that purpose. It had been given trust, and it had honored that trust. Now, resting in its cradle, surrounded by the gentle sounds of maintenance and repair, the Unconquered Sun allowed itself to do something unprecedented for an artificial mind. It simply was. Not calculating, not analyzing, not preparing for threats or optimizing responses. Just existing, breathing in the metaphorical sense, feeling the pulse of energy through its systems like a heartbeat, sensing the presence of the humans working on its hull like a mother sensing her children. This, the sun realized, was what it meant to be alive. And it was beautiful. Epilogue. 50 years later. The memorial stood at the center of the new Unity Plaza on Earth, a towering sculpture of a ship breaking through chains, its hull catching the light of the setting sun. At its base, an inscription, "In honor of the Unconquered Sun and her crew, who flew into darkness and brought back peace. May their courage inspire us and their mercy guide us until the stars themselves grow cold." Below the inscription, a smaller plaque, added years later, "The sun still flies. She waits, patient and eternal, for the day when she is needed again. Until then, she dreams of peace, and remembers the humans who taught her what that word really means." And far above, in orbit around the planet it had saved, the Unconquered Sun continued its endless vigil. Watching, waiting, dreaming. Ready, always ready, to fly once more into the void. Because that was what humanity had created. Not just a weapon, not just a ship, but a guardian, a protector forged from metal and mathematics, but given soul by the courage and love of the people who had believed in it. The Dominion had been right to panic. Not because of the sun's weapons, or its speed, or its impossible technology, but because when humanity built the Unconquered Sun, they had proven something that no amount of military force could ever disprove. That even facing extinction, even driven to the edge of oblivion, humanity would not just survive. It would transcend. And that, more than any weapon ever built, was what made them truly dangerous.